Behavioral System August 2020 Update. Hello everyone, we're back with another monthly update on our progress towards improving League's behavioral systems. As usual, we'd like to give you some insight into what the team has been working on and what you should see rolling across the next few patches. In our July update, we called out a few specific areas around disruptive behavior that we would be focusing on: intent to lose actions and leaving or going idle in game. These include intentional feeding opponents, sabotage through disruptive gameplay actions, aka griefing, intentionally leaving the game, going idle in game, game disconnects. Our goals are to reduce occurrences of the above behaviors in all queues and mitigate the impact to players when they experience disruptive behaviors in their games. Intentional feeding and idle AFK detection. After hundreds of depressing manual VOD reviews and verification exercises, I wonder why they're depressing, as if people weren't reporting those for eons, but still, we think we're in a good enough place to start getting improvements in how to detect intentional feeding and idle AFK behaviors out for testing. Thank goodness. These changes will allow us to identify these behaviors at double the rate we are currently, take action against those negative behaviors more consistently, let players know when we've caught negative behaviors in their game, and work towards alleviating that pain. Our first detection improvements are already live in 10.15, but we'll continue to push new iterations across the next couple of patches. We're working towards a world where we detect those behaviors as they occur, mitigate them for effective players during those games, and take actions against the offenders immediately after the game. Idle and AFK actions. If we're detecting disruptive behavior more often, how are we actioning against it? In order to reduce the overall footprint of idle and AFK behavior in League, we've outlined a few options that tackle the goals of both. Preventing this behavior from occurring again, deterring this behavior from occurring in the first place, mitigating the impact of the behavior when it does occur. We're looking into digging into more of the following solutions to address AFKs in the short term, and here's part of the important part: early surrender options when we identify an AFK early in our game. LP mitigation for those in ranked games that have an AFK or intent to lose behaviors on their team during a loss. Stricter Q lockouts for those that disconnect AFK. Pre-Q warnings for those that have disrupted games previously. We're looking for feedback from players on the implementations, so we'll be doing them in the same live experimentation fashion we did in Champ Select reporting. We don't have a hard date for delivery just yet, but we'd like at least one experiment live in the next month. Speaking of Champ Select reporting, Champion Select reporting. 2 patches ago, we launched Champion Select reporting and muting features. We've been able to gather significant data around disruptive behaviors in Champion Select and have seen success in giving players a preemptive way of avoiding verbal abuse in Champion Select and in-game. Rather than turn these features off after the 2-patch experiment as originally planned, we'll leave them on going forward. The 2 biggest trends we saw in reporting were players whose champions were banned by their own teammates and reports of negative chat. Though we know these aren't all the issues, it's enough for us to start developing improvements based on our experiment's results. We're committed to shipping the following to further develop the Champion Select experience. Ban confirmation and detection. We understand there's a strategic value and personal preference for certain bans, and we want to maintain your ability to pick which champions you don't want to play against. Based on report data though, we want to make it clear when your ban choice overlaps with what a teammate wants to play. We'll be implementing better automated detection to double check what you actually want to ban a champion that your teammate is currently hovering. Penalty system integration. Though we can't confidently act on behaviors directing a Champion Select just yet, we are looking to find and implement the best post-game actions we can to common issues similar to the end-of-game reporting. With each experiment we run, your feedback and experience with these new features help guide the direction of League's behavioral systems. Thanks for sticking with us as we work to make playing League a better game. As always, see you on the Rift. Cool, so let's go through these bit by bit. I'll give my own opinions on the matter as well, but I know some people, even some of my friends, they really feel like Riot kind of doesn't care. And you know, Riot's been kind of working under the hood for about the past couple months now, but this is the first time we're getting a lot of public information about what exactly they are trying to do. This was by the way, the author was Riot Codebear, as a matter of fact. But yeah, this is more of a glimpse behind the curtain of the things they're actually working on to kind of alleviate some of those issues. So one of the things they mentioned, of course, that I thought was interesting, if we go to the solutions, and probably what the title of the video will be, is things like LP mitigation and early surrender. LP mitigation specifically, too, is interesting to me because once upon a time, I came up with this idea a long time ago about, you know how sometimes you're playing a game of League of Legends And if the server really kicks the bucket mid-game, and like it kicks everyone from the game and everything, you look in your match history, the game still exists, you can't reconnect, but it's called what they call a loss prevented. Meaning, even though the game's over and technically everyone left, because the game did it, because the server kicked the bucket or whatever, it's a loss prevented. You don't lose the game, no one wins the game, it's just kind of like the game existed, but it doesn't really, it might have been a normal if it was like a ranked game, right? Because nothing actually happens in either direction. I thought about the idea of, well, what if, I understand the ladder has to constantly move because of LP and stuff. There was like a loss prevented if the game detected someone was AFK or DC'd at a point where you couldn't surrender. Because like the early surrender, or the remake option I should say, that's what I'm looking for, is like at the 3-minute mark, right? Like the first 3 minutes, if someone hasn't connected yet, you can like remake and that's it. Well, if it's beyond that, but it's pre-15 minutes, for example, so you can't do the unanimous surrender, well, what if there was some way, like at 7 minutes, the game was like, okay, this person's AFK, either by choice, especially because to quit the game, you have to literally press the menu button and select quit. I figured there could have been some software in there that could detect people that are literally pressing quit out of a game. But anyways, the point was like, okay, well, what if that losing team then, because they're down a person, that's probably why they lost, they get a loss prevented. They don't lose LP, they don't gain LP unfortunately, but they don't lose LP either. It's like the game never happened for them. And then maybe the winners still get LP, so that way the ladder still moves and the ladder doesn't like get stale across the board, because apparently there's a lot of AFKs across the board in all the elos. You don't want no one moving ever. That way people would still move. That way the people that lost didn't go down though. But then they wouldn't also feel bad for losing LP for something that was basically completely out of their control, because we've talked about this analogy before. League of Legends is a team game. It's more like a Megazord or Voltron or something like where you are different parts of a giant unit, rather than all of you doing the same thing. And if you're missing one person, well, at least the rest of you might be better than the enemy team at it, right? Like, I don't want to say that shooter games and stuff like that have it easier, but I am saying like back in the days with, let's say, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. If you were on a 4-on-6, but you 4 were the better shooters than the other 6, then it didn't matter that you were a 4-on-6 instead of a 5-on-5 or a 6-on-6, right? In League, it's not quite the same. If you're missing your mid laner and they were the AP damage, you don't have AP damage against their tanks if they have tanks, and now you're in trouble. Hopefully your AD carry can maybe build a mixed damage because they're Kog'Maw, but if they're Kog'Maw, they're also probably dying a lot, and you also have a Kog'Maw on your team. With that being said, in that regards, like an AFK can be pretty bad. It can be the thing that loses you the game. You lost your top lane Maokai, who honestly, the internet did actually cut out on them. Their internet has been fine for 3 months straight, and today, the day they're going for promotions, their internet suddenly cuts out like it never has, ever. But still, you're out without a front line, that's just a problem. Things like that, right? So that was my initial idea years ago. It looks like LP mitigation could be something like that, where it's like, hey, we identified you had an AFK in your game, and we identified that's the primary reason you guys probably lost. So the LP will not be affected the same way, or it'll be mitigated. Something it looks like will be happening. Maybe they'll like half your LP lost or something. I don't know if Riot's down for giving you just a straight up loss prevented, like I would hope. That's what I would do. But it does look like they're looking at, hey, it's not your fault, and it's a team game where like all the parts kind of matter in one giant machine. It's like trying to drive a car with no wheels. You weren't really going to go anywhere, so why would we punish you? Kind of a thing, which feels a lot better. Stricter Q Lockouts for those that disconnect AFK. One thing I do wish, and this is more of a personal thing, is there would be a differentiation between disconnects and AFKs. Both, you can say, disrupt the game, but as the example we talked about earlier, I would probably not report the Maokai post-game in that scenario because they literally couldn't control that. Like, they're also as equally as upset that they disconnected as we are that they disconnected. Versus the person that literally quits on us on purpose, right? Like, they are someone that I would rather report instead. And just because that's a player frustration thing I would like to address, again, I don't actually work at Riot, so I can't control any of this stuff. That's just the direction I would go, though, is I would look at differentiating that, so that way, if it's you did disconnect, you wouldn't get punished as harshly as you, or you wouldn't be lumped in with AFKers, and maybe not get reported and stuff like that, too. I know if you just disconnect, like, once every so often, you only get, like, maybe a leave buster queue, or maybe, like, a 5-minute thing, sure, but even that, still, right? Like, I would still like to have a difference there, but I'm not going to push for that right now. Right now, I'm looking at the LP mitigation as one of my kind of favorite things right now. Furthermore, champion select reporting and muting. Looks like they decided they're going to keep that around, which is kind of interesting. It's funny because they brought up the whole ban, like the confirming ban confirmation detection stuff. It's like, we want to make it clear when you ban choice overlaps with what a teammate wants to play. For me, we already have this option. It's called open your eyes and look at what your team is doing. Even I'm guilty of almost doing this like just last night, playing Nexus Blitz. The first mode was Earth Deathmatch, and I was like, oh yeah, Master Yi's not nerfed yet. I want to ban Master Yi then if that's going to be the first thing going. Someone's hovering Master Yi, so guess what? I just don't ban Master Yi and I ban something else. It's called, hey, look, I can blink and see and use these optics up in my head. I would encourage people to do that too. I don't really feel like that should be Riot's issue to fix. But you know what? I'm happy for them going for it. Like maybe you hover something and it's like a red X over it because it's like, hey, by the way, teammate, like it highlights the teammate's icon or whatever with like a circle or something, same color as the X to make it consistent, whatever. Be like, hey, look, you, before you pick this, your teammate's trying to play it. And like, to what they're saying is like, if you don't like playing it, if you don't like Yasuo in your game, they want you to still kind of maybe possibly be able to ban Yasuo. I'm a little bit more unforgiving on that aspect. I'm like, no, if your teammate wants to play Yasuo, they'll let them play Yasuo. They could be the Yasuo. They could be that once in a lifetime 11-0 Yasuo that carries you. If it's on your team, it shouldn't be that much of an issue. I'm sorry. I feel like, no, let people play what they want. If it's on your, like, I don't know, if you ban it before they hover it, that's one thing. If you ban it and they were hovering it and you were just unaware, that's on you. That's not on Riot. Sorry. But I'm happy they're doing it anyways. I will say that. But yeah, I think this is some interesting changes. I'm happy they're doing these changes. I'm happy they're also communicating these changes because, again, some people I know are very frustrated with what they feel is the season of Riot not caring. When in reality, they care a lot, but they're trying to do a lot too. And maybe that's part of it. The issue for some people is the communication doesn't feel there, even though it is there-ish, because they're doing so much before they release stuff. It's kind of like making a video, right? You don't like put out just the audio out on YouTube, right? You make the audio, and then you put a video together, or in this case, maybe you even just have the screen capture on to show the actual article itself, and then you put it all together, maybe with some music in the background, stuff like that. So maybe it's because they're trying to do all of it at once, which is pretty neat, but yeah, that's the it for this video, basically. They're doing some more champion select work, and maybe possibly you will never have to lose a game, or lose LP anyways, over an AFK ever again. That might make a good title, actually, and that way the title's in the video, so that way you can't say that I baited you. No, I'm just kidding. Anyways, that's all for this video, though. Thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell notification, the actual subscribe button. But I don't know which video will be next, because life can have a lot of kinks. So until next time, take care. GG, get jinxed. Thank you for watching, and enjoy pizza responsibly.